Welcome to this ChannelX 2026 Leaders Interview. Delighted to be joined by James Rigg of Trojan once again. And welcome, James. How are you?
I'm really good, Chris. How are you doing?
I'm great, but actually I'm not great. I've got so many frustrations, and I want to cover some of those in this chat today, because you are the renowned expert across the industry for the refurbished tech business. And I've got to say, it's annoyed me over the years. I've had some brilliant refurbished laptops. I know I bought one from Tesco's on eBay many years ago, but something that annoyed me was a Dyson I had, and it was purely the motor for the carpet beater had broken, and it wasn't that old. It was 5 or 6 years old, but Dyson just didn't have the spares for it anymore. And I'm kind of like, well, basically, I took it up the local dump and threw it into electronics bin, but the rest of it was working perfectly, and it was just winds me up so often that we can't always get stuff repaired. And I know repair and refurbishment is kind of a wider issue of e-commerce waste, but why is it still not getting enough attention, despite all of the benefits of re-commerce and buying refurbished, and consumers becoming more aware of the issue, and actually, like me, wanting to get repairs or refurbished rather than throwing stuff into landfill?
And you raise a really good frustration. I think that's felt by many people. So it is so annoying that you can't get that repaired. You mentioned a brand there. You actually mentioned two brands. First of all, thank you for buying that refurbished laptop from Tesco. It's probably one that we did for Tesco back in the day.
Fantastic.
Because refurbished laptops and refurbished mobile phones have always sold incredibly well, and now it's normal for people to buy refurbished phones. I think it's the difficulty with refurbished products like the vacuum cleaner and other brands is that most brands are still really afraid to do it in case it waters down their price of new products, or they're
Mm.
petrified that by doing a refurbished product, they're going to in some way diminish their brand, or people will buy that refurbished product rather than buying a brand new product. And that's completely opposite to everything that we see. What we see is if we look at that Dyson, you mentioned the name, the Dyson vacuum cleaner, people who would have bought a cheaper product, brand new, can now buy a Dyson refurbished. So that's what they want to buy. But in your case, you couldn't fix it. So that brings around several annoying things, which is all those products go to landfill. There's no reason why those products couldn't be harvested and the spares go into a library, and then you just go down to the local library or whoever and get that spare from them. Dyson could make them available. They have a lot in stock for their in warranty repairs. So I think it is really frustrating that you can't get refurbished products in this day and age when the government and everybody wants to encourage recycling, refurbing, repairing. And we did a survey, interestingly, last year to people who bought brand new appliances, and 70% said they would buy refurbished if they could find a refurbished product being sold alongside a brand new product. So they want the manufacturers to get behind this. So if Dyson had a website where you could click on it and see everybody that had refurbished products and spare parts, because the byproduct of doing refurbish, you also harvest, then
Mm.
you'd have had your answer. But
Yeah.
at the moment, they don't. So my whole focus is if you can double the life of a product, you half the amount going to landfill. That's my whole thing. So
Mm.
therefore, I mean, I'd reduce landfill by half. That's what I want to achieve. But in the commercial world, if you extend the life of the product by double, brand new product sales drop. That's a huge hit to someone's global P&L somewhere. And
Mm.
you got this battle now with the brands of what to do the right thing, or do the thing which keeps the traditional sales engine funnel turning. So yeah, it's a conversation I have a lot with people.
I think something that's important to point out, that you and I have spoken about it before, though, is the kind of aspirational buyer that can't actually afford a brand new Dyson or whatever brand it is at the moment, that would take a refurbished, but then you may have them as a customer for life. So that a few years later, when they can afford a brand new, the next time they want one, they'll come back to you because they've had the refurbished. I think there is that life cycle of customer as well as life cycle of product to consider.
I completely agree. And we've met with some people who make quite expensive hair straighteners about refurbing their products and explain the same thing to them. So in our case studies, so we have some case studies with people like Melita coffee machines. So Melita do a beautiful high-end bean to cup machine. and the customers who buy them would never have bought them brand new. But having now bought it and realizing it will last 10 years, every part can be repaired. It's not glued together like some cheap product from an online store. Actually, it's better value for them in the long run. So you're right, and they get the quality, they get the great taste of coffee. So people can enter a brand and then become a loyal fan of the brand that they could never have done buying it brand new. And an example also would be something like Smeg. So Smeg Smeg American fridge freezers, amazing products, very expensive. When we sell those products as being refurbished, the customers who buy them would normally have bought one of the main 5 brands that everyone knows, but can now move into a luxury brand, and that's a big purchase of that product. But hanging off that brand is multiple small SDAs that probably are affordable. So you're right, it does bring people in, and then they can then expand on that brand.
Now, getting down to the spares and repairs, I understand you wrote to the Chancellor, Rachel Reeves, last year on the subject of trying to make spare parts more accessible. What was that all about?
Because so this is what there's a couple of things that I find frustrating. One is that people will genuinely spend 30 or 40% of the product at new to fix it before they throw it away and go and buy a brand new one. But in that fixing it before you throw it away, 20% of that is VAT on the labour and 20% on the spare part. And I find that incredible that we're taxing people to repair something. I find it horrific that we're taxing people to repair something when it should be no VAT on that. So I wrote to Rachel Reeves, I wrote to her before the budget to say remove VAT from spares and from the labour of repairs. And therefore people can fix things 20% cheaper, they'll keep them longer, it'll reduce waste. And as we both know, you can't access spare parts right now. Although there's a couple of websites that sell spares, but it's not a major industry. And therefore, they're not making any money out of repair and spares because no one's doing it. That's the problem. And when I wrote her and explained this in detail, she replied after some time to say that it's already been factored into their revenue income for the year. They can't afford to remove it. So I wrote back saying, you have no income from spares and repairs because no one's buying them because they're too expensive. And therefore, if you did this, it unlocks a whole new channel. Also, it gives somebody a job to do the repairs. And then she didn't write back. So I thought that was outrageous. I think for a government, sorry, that I'm not being political, for a country that wants to encourage repair and refurb, the VAT thing is not a luxury to repair something. The VAT thing, I think, was something that they should have gone with what I said, but they didn't. But
I definitely think government should be encouraging repair and reuse wherever possible. I think it just makes sense for the environment, and we know every government of every flavour has always got some sort of aspiration for improving our environment and less going to landfill. Anything you can do on that side, keep pushing. I'm all in favour.
And they can do more. Like in Austria and Germany, they get vouchers towards repair. In other countries, it's VAT free. Now, there's a lot of things you can do to make repair accessible, and also train up a workforce for tomorrow. So apprenticeships for people to do repairs in a local community will be the next big thing because who will do the repairs? There's no training course for it in apprenticeships. So it's a whole ecosystem there about creating a green economy today with the youth and the VAT and the levers and motivators to do repairs.
Now, something else you mentioned a little earlier is kind of the risk to brands when they're seeing their products sold, or spares and repairs are potentially reducing their revenues. And a couple of things I'm interested in is how larger brands are actively de-risking Amazon using 3P as a strategy. And also for the smaller products, the kind of the FMCG brand crisis on TikTok and social, where, well, frankly, anyone, myself included, could become an influencer and be selling your brand, and you kind of got no real control over what I'm saying about it.
And that is the crisis, I think, right now for a lot of big brands who spent years and years curating these beautiful online presences. And TikTok has got billions of viewers and is the biggest social platform of the future once they finish monetizing the online stores, which they have done. So now it's just brands moving on to them. So what we see is this. So talking about TikTok first. So last year we launched, I don't know, more than 10 branded TikTok stores for FMCG people in the UK. And the ecom teams are 100% behind launching TikTok stores. They see the benefit of some content being created by somebody and their followers then wanting to buy that product or take the discount or the benefit. But the brand teams, who for years have held the brand and protected the brand, don't want these people saying whatever they want to say. So they can't be authentic. They've got to be scripted. And these people won't be scripted because they are authentic. And that's what's made them a brand. That's what's
But
made them an
honestly,
influencer.
if they're scripted, I don't want to watch their TikTok stream.
You can tell the difference. They're boring. They're not real.
Yeah.
So yeah, so we have got quite a lot of stores open. Some people really embracing it. Some products suit letting influencers just do what they want to do because they're going to get paid on the link. So they don't want it to be they don't want to be bad in what they say, to be honest. But they're not going to make it bad on purpose. So yeah, we're seeing some huge conflicts, I think, between ecom teams and brand teams right now in quite a few big FMCG brands that we all know and use every day.
That's really interesting. And I've got to say, I do love it on TikTok where they're honest and they point out the things that they, in their mind, aren't so good about the product. Because honestly, sometimes they're saying, "Oh, this product's got this that I don't really like." And I'm thinking, well, that wouldn't bother me if it does what I want to do. I still want to buy it, but at least then I know they're honest and giving an honest opinion.
And that's what you want, isn't it? It's about that authentic. You want someone to say absolutely what they think,
Hmm.
and you'll choose whether or not you want what they think or not. And that's your choice. That's what social commerce is.
Hmm.
Somebody shares with you something, you follow people who you like in general, and then you believe what they say because you feel you share something in common with them, and that's what you
Hmm.
need. Well, yeah, you want to know that person who I really respect says X about a product, therefore I believe them,
Hmm.
and therefore brands have to accept that as the future of social selling.
I mean, it's a bit like the old days of in the past. I wouldn't have gone to TikTok for a product review. I'd have gone to maybe Trustpilot, and my favourite was always to filter by the 5 stars and then filter by the 1 stars, and you get both ends of the scale. TikTok's pretty much just that. Brands had no control over online ratings, product reviews, and why should they have control over TikTok? Let people tell me how it is. I would say.
I totally agree. I mean, brands do have some control, so the brands can not give them the either the commission link
Yeah.
or the cash up front, so they can control who gets that commission link, and they can withdraw it from somebody if they say something they don't like. So there is some immediate control that you have. The fear of some of the brands is that it's not what they say today. It's not maybe what they even said last year. Is what they might say in 3 months' time about some
Mm,
world leader or some unpopular group that they get behind, and it's that future association that they're petrified of because they have no control over that. They can look at the past, but
mm.
if someone suddenly jumps behind a party that has views which don't fit with their typical consumer, that's their fear, and that's this battle that they have internally. We say just go with it and try it because actually influencers are their own mini businesses. They're not going to mess up their own business. That is their
Yeah.
income stream. Like any business, like going to a retailer on the high street, just much smaller. But yeah, you're not going to mess up your own business. If they say something wrong once, every big brand will stop dealing with them. Yeah, look at what happened to Twitter when they changed their name. Like, like a lot of big brands walked away because they didn't like what that became. So there is control, but I think there's a consumers as usual are way ahead of I think where big brands, big corporates are.
So let's talk Amazon and de-risking Amazon then. You obviously manage a whole host of brands, some for new product, some for refurbished product. How can you de-risk your Amazon strategy nowadays? And who in the brands is deciding it? Is this the marketing team or is it board level? Where are the decision makers?
So there's two sides here, refurb and non-refurb. So if we talk about new product first, non-refurb, it's increasingly becoming a board discussion. So something that was an e-com manager discussion maybe 2 years ago, back in the day when there was two platforms, eBay and Amazon, would have been handled by somebody dealing just with Amazon, and they would decide what they want to do with 1p and 3p. What's happened over the last few years is there's many more platforms selling their product, many more platforms where Amazon 1p can scrape the price and say it's cheaper on Debenhams or it's cheaper on B&Q Marketplace or whatever, even when it's a rogue seller, therefore not representative of market price, and therefore they'll delist you or drop the price down and do lots of really strange behaviors that you don't know about until your product stops being listed. And they don't also tell you that you've been delisted neither. So you find out when you check on why your sales have dropped. So what we're seeing at board level now, increasingly, is a 3p resilient strategy to 1p. So
Mm.
never to drive down 1p, not to damage 1p. It's their global sales route, but to absolutely have all their stock held in 3p at a price point above 1p. So it's not challenging 1p. So there's no risk here. But the second that 1p has no stock or delist on that one particular ASIN, you can go live on another ASIN or put stock into the ASIN that's live. So the whole strategy now is about always having stock available from the manufacturer's preferred provider, rather than just lose the ASIN and then spend weeks or months rebuilding that ASIN once it's back online. So it's increasingly it's a board decision, because it has to be the board, because they are worried that 1p will do something very, very, very punitive to them if they sell through 3p. And it's a fear. And it's not necessarily true, because Amazon doesn't necessarily do that, but they could. And that's the fear. So it has to be a board that says, we want to be de-risked, and in de-risking that comes with that maybe a risk. Yeah, we've never had any risk from what we've done. We've never had an issue where Amazon has fallen out with a client ever. So it doesn't happen, but the fear is there, isn't it? And that's what
Good
we
to
have to
know. But
manage.
I think balancing the 1p and 3p, because again, we've seen Amazon so many times over the years restrict the number of vendors they've got on 1p and say, actually, we don't want to deal with you anymore. And at least having that 3p backup already on stream, it means you can just seamlessly move from one to the other. So it makes a
Absolutely.
lot of sense.
Especially with, so every year there's contract negotiations that they have to go through for 1p sales. There's the CPI price increases, which cause problems with Amazon. So there's always these things that are going to happen every year without fail, which puts you in a high chance that you might have some delists come through, and you need to have a strategy behind that. But the good thing is now, because there is 10, 15 platforms now in the UK you can sell through, and in Europe, that stock will always sell through somewhere else. So you build up your stock ready just in case, and then if it's not needed, you can sell it through eBay, Debenhams, Tesco Direct, whatever.
Fantastic. But there's something I've got to ask you, because it's the buzzword everyone's talking about, which is AI. There was an interesting bit in The Guardian this week that says AI is taking over more jobs in the UK than anywhere else, and people are relying on it and reducing their workforce or expanding. How are you using AI at Trojan? What do you do with it, and how are you viewing the use of AI?
It's a great question, and I also read the same article as well. I think the article said something like 12% reduction in jobs and another
Yeah,
11% that
11.5%,
wouldn't be
which
filled.
quite a big
Yeah,
reduction.
it's huge numbers. So we embraced AI relatively early. Some people embraced it much earlier, and we've deployed it as we create an AI agent as a name in our org chart now. So there's various bots that sit in the org chart who are AI doing repetitive functions. And what we try to do is to whatever repetitive administration is being done by a member of the account management team or the commercial team or the warehouse teams, of placing POs or working on stock forecasting, is to take away all the administration side of that so they can focus on growth and creativity rather than be doing admin. So we've used AI not to look at trying to reduce the heads or wages or like that. That's not been our approach to this. Luckily, we're growing all the time, so we constantly have a need to recruit. But to make the people we have more time to be creative and smart. So that's our approach from a people point of view.
Mm.
But looking at some of our wider AI usages, we've also used it for looking at all the CS complaints and trying to find patterns and trends in CS complaints that you couldn't have done by manually. Look at the call recordings and listen to call recordings and transcribe them and figure out how can we improve the engagement. Did we miss something on a call? So we're starting to bring it in everywhere we can to make us more creative and smart, rather than for it to be a way just to simply reduce some cost.
Mm. And I think, to be fair, to cutting out some of the sort of the boring, mundane tasks, it actually makes people's jobs more interesting and fulfilling as well, I imagine.
I totally agree. I mean, I completely agree. I think AI has some incredible benefits, and use it wisely, and it will really help your firm. Use it unwisely, you'll end up just simply shrinking what you have, not reskilling people. You can end up with a void of knowledge if you're not careful. So it's getting that balance right, isn't it?
So, looking ahead for 2026, what can we expect to see from Trojan this year, both in the UK and your overseas business?
So there's two areas that we're focusing on. So the first one is we're already doing it, which is we're expanding our European presence on the sites across Europe. So our clients in the UK can get the benefit of what we do here, all the way that we protect the brands, that we help them scale, we take away any stress they have, and we're replicating that across Europe. So that's already started, and we're already going live with our warehouses in Europe. So the focus 26 is going to be our European growth. Um, but at the same time that as we're growing and expanding into Europe, there's a lot of smaller people out there that are doing similar businesses to us, so small refurbers and small 3PLs who do online stuff, and we think the market is ripe for consolidation. So we are actively looking around to see if we can help smaller businesses to get the benefit of all the scale and infrastructure that we have by becoming part of the Trojan family. So we think this year I've got nobody right now that I'm speaking to, but I think this year there may be some consolidation where there's some movement of firms. I think that will help the industry. It'll make it more professional. Yeah, it'll make it more efficient.
Fantastic. James, amazing to speak to you as always. An absolutely fascinating subject. We've covered so much today, from VAT on repairs to just being able to get the spares, to
Yeah,
strategies for brands that should be embracing refurbished sales, and strategies for marketplaces. So thank you so much for your time.
thank you, Chris. Thank you for having me.